breaking down the characters that are integral to this plot, the characters that play a big role in the end time events. And there's no better place to start than Israel.
Your greatness will not be hidden in the earth, Lord, it will be revealed. Your greatness will not be hidden in the earth, Lord, and we call it sealed.
From Genesis to Revelation, there's no denying the presence of Israel in some form. Most of the iconic Bible stories we tell took place in Israel. A lot of the quotes from God which we quote are actually spoken to the people of Israel. Why is Israel so important? Genesis 12 from verse 1 to 3 says, Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. This is the promise from which Israel was ultimately birthed. God did indeed keep his promise, and out of Abram, later called Abraham, came a great nation with a great name that is spoken of and captivates headlines even up to today. But the part we want to focus on is the end of verse 3. The Bible says that all families of the earth will be blessed through Abraham, through Israel. This is what makes Israel so important. When sin entered the world, man lost his dominion, immortality, and relationship with God. But God had a plan to fix this state of affairs. Jesus would be sent into the world in flesh to supernaturally afford us the blessings we had lost. But in order for Jesus to be born in flesh, he had to come through a people, through a nation. That nation was Israel. Jesus was brought into the world through Israel, and through him, blessing and salvation came for all families of the earth. Now, we have to ask this question: is this the same Israel that we know today? Israel has gone through different configurations throughout the ages. So let's start by understanding who Israel is in the Bible. So first and foremost, as we just saw, God entered covenant with Abraham. Abraham fathered Isaac, who was promised to him. Isaac fathered Jacob, and God renamed Jacob Israel. Jacob fathered 12 sons. Their descendants would later become the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob and his sons migrated to Egypt after Joseph became a ruler of Egypt. The children of Israel, Jacob's descendants, multiplied in Egypt before being enslaved by the Egyptians after Joseph's death. God led the children of Israel out of Egypt by Moses. God made covenant with Moses and the children of Israel in the wilderness. Now, the covenant God made with Abraham was fixed. Abraham kept his side of the covenant, and God was bound to keep his. This covenant made in the wilderness was directly between God and the children of Israel, and would govern the land of Israel he was leading them to. So, let's move on. God brought the children of Israel to the land promised in the covenant. The land was divided amongst the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes became the United Kingdom of Israel. Saul was the first king. David succeeded Saul as king of Israel. Solomon succeeded David as the last king of the United Kingdom of Israel. Now, this is where things got interesting. You may notice that sometimes the Bible speaks of Judah in the same way it would speak of Israel. Well, this is why. The United Kingdom of Israel was split into two kingdoms. The northern kingdom of Israel, which had 10 tribes, and the southern kingdom of Judah, which had 2 tribes. Now, due to their breaking of his laws, God allowed Israel, the northern kingdom, to be taken captive by the Assyrians. Later, Judah was taken captive by the Babylonians. After 70 years, many of the captives of Judah returned to Jerusalem and rebuilt the city. The people of Judah became the Jews. The people of the northern kingdom of Israel disappeared from history. They're known as the 10 lost tribes. So that is who Israel was in the Bible. But what about today? What about the Israel we hear about on the news? After eons of scattering, in 1948, the Jews were given a large part of the land promised in God's covenant. They returned with very little and established the state of Israel. At that time, the land was not fertile, but it responded to the presence of the Jews and sprang to life, fulfilling many prophecies. So we went from biblical Israel to the nation of Israel. But what about the covenant God made with the children of Israel? Is it still valid? Does it still apply to the nation of Israel we have today? Well, the covenant made in the wilderness that governed the children of Israel was a major step in the narrative of the Bible. It was essential to God's plan to restore mankind and the world he originally created. But it wasn't perfect. Now, this isn't to say that God made a mistake, but rather the covenant was never intended to be forever. The covenant was based on laws. Israel had to keep the laws in order to gain favor. The problem with this is that no one was perfect enough to keep all the laws all the time. God always intended to fix that later. The second imperfection in the covenant was that it was only made with Israel. They were the only ones entitled to the blessings and promises of that covenant. But as stated, it was God's intent that all families of the earth be blessed. God wanted to bless all of mankind, not just the people that were part of Israel. So, you see, there was a need for a new covenant. But God is a keeper of his word. A covenant made by God cannot be broken. The only way to get out of it is to fulfill it, to meet all of its requirements. This is where Jesus comes in. He was sent to Israel, but what he was sent to establish was for all mankind, a new covenant. He fulfilled all the requirements of the old covenant. Actually, he was the fulfillment itself. So, having fulfilled the old covenant, he was then able to create a new covenant, one that took God's plan to restore mankind to the next level. Hebrews 8 from verse 6 to 10 says, "But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. But finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people." The new covenant is not based on laws, but on relationship and grace. Instead of a stone tablet telling you what God likes and doesn't like, you will know in your heart, because he will be in your heart. It is a better covenant with better promises, and all they had to do was accept Jesus as their Christ. Sadly, most of the Jews rejected Jesus as Christ. But the beauty of the new covenant is that it was available to all people, not just Israel. So it brought God a step closer to regaining the full relationship he had lost with man. And it was a major step forward in him regaining relationship with all people of all nations. This was the birth of the church, another major player in this exciting narrative, which we will learn more about in the next episode. Please note though, the covenant of Moses may have been replaced, but God's covenant with Abraham still stands. Abraham fulfilled his end of the covenant, and God will be sure to fulfill his. The land of Israel will stand forever. Jerusalem, capital of Israel, is a central place in the book of Revelation. When Jesus returns to the earth to battle the Antichrist and the evil kings of the earth, he sets up a physical kingdom based in Jerusalem. The saints of God will be with him in Jerusalem. At the very end of this narrative, when God creates a new earth, there's a new Jerusalem. The only place from the old earth that is noted to exist in the new earth is Jerusalem, capital of Israel. Clearly, Israel will exist forever. And those 10 lost tribes we spoke of earlier, they may be lost to historians, but they are not lost to God. During a period of great tribulation to come, God will put a seal on 144,000 of the children of Israel to protect them from harm. Revelation 7:4 says, "And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel." God has kept track of all of his people from every one of the tribes of Israel. So you see, there's no denying the presence of Israel and no denying the importance of Israel and its covenants, the old as well as the new, from which the church is birthed. Speaking of the church, we're going to get deeper into that in our next episode, as well as its role in the last days. Keep it locked. This is Revelation for Life.